Well, hello, welcome everybody. My name is Scott Nelson. I'm with Legacy Financial Group. I'll be your guide today as we discuss one of our financial education programs, My Financial Life Money Matters. So in addition to serving and advising clients for over 30 years, we have the pleasure of partnering with local employers in delivering financial wellness programming throughout Central Iowa. So because I work in the financial services industry, here are those disclosures. So as independent investment advisor representatives, we take great pride in our freedom of thought and fiduciary duty to always work in our clients' best interest. Education is the backbone of our practice, and we enjoy helping people learn through employer-based workshops as well as one-on-one consultations. Today's program is strictly educational. So whether you're just getting started or on the cusp of retirement, we'll cover some important concepts today and strategies to help in improving your financial future. Our goal is to not only help motivate you to take action in your financial life, but also to equip you with some practical tools and resources to help you get started today. So we'll have some time at the end of today's program for some Q&A. So feel free to use the chat box to type your questions in as we go. And we're also going to be moving pretty quick today. There's a lot of information we'll cover. And really, when it comes to personal finances, there's really too much stuff to cover in just one webinar. So we'll definitely have a recording of today's program available for future review. But again, as questions arise, jot them down and put them in the chat box. If they're questions that are a little more personal or a little more confidential, feel free to send me an email. I'm happy to answer those questions individually offline as well. But feel free to use the chat today, and any general questions we can help answer today as well. So what does it mean to have financial wellness? Well, financial wellness involves the process of learning how to successfully manage our finances. And money really plays a critical role in our lives. And really having not enough of it also can really impact our health and our family life, as well as our career performance. And really, if there's anything this past year has taught us, it's that there's so much that's really beyond our control, isn't there? So when there's so much that's beyond our control, we really must take some time and energy to focus on the things that we can control, like our finances. We certainly can't control the market or the economy, and we never will be. But when we have control over our finances, we are much more prepared to absorb a financial shock and also to meet our financial goals and have confidence to make choices that allow us to enjoy our lives. Because without financial wellness, we have stress, right? And financial stress is repeatedly found to be a common source of stress, anxiety, and fear in a vast number of Americans. Money is often considered one of the #1 stressors and the #1 reason for divorce as well. Partially, it's because we have really each of us have our own unique history with money, if we think about it. I think about my wife and I's relationship, and we met in our early 20s. And when we met, we were each bringing into our relationship about 20 years of our own history and our own experience with money, and we were bringing that into our relationship. Couples often have completely different views about money, so really it's no wonder that this can be a true pain point in many relationships. Money impacts nearly every aspect of our lives, and getting it right, it takes some planning. Unfortunately, about 75% of Americans aren't planning. We're winging it when it comes to their financial future. About 1 in 5 earning even more than $100,000 are also winging it when it comes to their finances. So it's not just whether you make a fair amount of money or not. Just a lot of people just are not really taking planning and gaining their knowledge. So to experience success, we really must learn how consumption today impacts our financial future, and also understand the importance of living within the income that we earn. without borrowing from the future. We also need a better understanding of how investments actually work. And also learning how to improve your financial wellness now, it's really going to help you feel more prepared and less stressed when life throws those challenging curveballs our way. So why aren't Americans engaged in their finances? Well, personal finances isn't something that most people were taught in school. Most people in school spend about 1,000 hours in gym class. They spend about 1,000 hours in study hall. We only spend about 30 hours learning how to drive, and about 5 hours is spent learning on personal finances. Again, we're just not spending enough time with them. For many, we learn by the way our money was typically modeled for us as we were growing up. If you have kids or planning to have kids, whether you realize it or not, every day we're teaching our kids about money by the way that we are modeling it for them. So really, most people end up learning about money as they go. Often it's at the expense of the mistakes that they make. And some feel like they're doing okay, or they feel like retirement's so far away. So they tend to put, the personal finances on the back burner and don't spend much time on it. Money's, one of those areas also in our lives that has a stigma around it when it comes to asking for help. But just like all the other stigmas too, we really need to muster up enough courage to ask for help. And remember, it's okay to ask for help. No one is expected to have life all figured out. There's lots of people that are out there to help provide resources and to provide help. We've just got to ask. And because if you think about it too, if you were to, for instance, break your leg, right? Well, what are you going to do? You're going to go to the doctor, right? You're going to go to the doctor and you're going to ask for help. You're not expected to be able to fix that yourself. There's a lot of things in life that we'll run across, not just our finances, that when things are broken or feel they're just not right, we need to be asking for help. Just like with traveling, when you experience the feeling of that uncertainty, when you're not quite sure where you're going, typically it's a good idea then, right, to stop and ask for help and ask for some directions. Otherwise, you run the risk of possibly running out of gas and never making it to your destination. So the same really holds true with our financial lives. If we aren't confident in the path that we're on, we really need to be asking for help and asking for directions. Otherwise, we run the risk of not achieving our goals. Sure, when it comes to financial planning, planning often produces lots of data and graphs and reports, which can be overwhelming sometimes. But really, financial planning, it's not about the reports. The value in planning for your financial future, it's more about the output. It's not really about the output alone. It's more about the financial planning outcomes that happens, the outcomes that happen when we do financial planning. Financial goals for the vast majority of people, it's not just to accumulate a vast amount of wealth, but it's really to have a sufficient resources to provide security and provide choices to the life that they want to live on their own terms. So just like when the stress of, say, living to paycheck is finally alleviated, or when you can see the light at the end of the tunnel from a mountain of debt, or the comfort of knowing that your family's basic needs don't go unmet due to an unexpected job loss. It's also the confidence of being able to make, say, a midlife career change to a job that you love despite a change in pay. Value of financial planning, it also comes from the clarity that's gained in knowing how to balance both enjoying today and also saving for the future. Having the option to work because you want to, not because you have to. It's having the confidence to be able to retire to a lifestyle that you have planned without worrying about running out of money. However, for change really to happen, there first must be a change in the mindset. Because if we continue to do what we've always done, we'll continue to get what we've always received. So if we don't have a big enough why, then we won't have the motivation and the drive to do what's needed to really achieve those goals. So what do you think will be the catalyst for the change in your financial life? So when it comes to goals, how do you achieve something also if you really don't know what we're aiming at when it comes to our goals? We must take some time to really discover and define what our financial goals are. Maybe your goal of retirement is finally having the time to relax and catch up on reading, or volunteer, or visit state parks. Maybe your goal in retirement is to travel or belong to a country club. There's nothing wrong with either of them. They just come with very, very different price tags. So maybe your financial goals aren't as far away as retirement, because for many of us, retirement is a long, long ways away. But really the goal could be more creating a financial life where you have financial security, for a work-life optional lifestyle. And when it comes to achieving our goals, also the shorter the time frame that we have, the more drastic of the adjustments that we need to make. If we're 5 years from retirement, we don't have as long of a time frame to make some adjustments. We've got to be a little bit more severe. The longer the time frame, the adjustments are needed are very, very subtle at times as well. So it's never too late to really get started when it comes to planning and goal setting, but naturally the earlier the better. So what are your top financial goals? Reducing debt to create some margin in your financial life, or creating a future where maybe your work life is more balanced. There's a recent financial survey that reports about 91% of workers define their current financial goal is saving for retirement. So saving for retirement is very important for a lot of people. However, the most pressing financial concern that people have is discovering actually how much is needed to save for retirement. So it takes more than just identifying a goal. We have to really define and discover what it takes to get there. So this is a very individualized calculation as well. A lot of it depends on what you want your retirement to look like, and also how long it might last. In our initial conversations with folks, we find that majority of people, they don't yet truly understand what financial goals are even possible, because they're unsure of the current trajectory that they're on within their financial life. So when we think about financial goals or financial future, we often have dreams about what that may look like. We can dream for a more successful or more freeing financial future. And really the dream is free, right? the hustle, that costs extra. Converting dreams into reality, it requires effort. It requires hard work. We just can't dream and think and it's magic going to happen. Most people spend actually more time planning their annual vacation than they do planning for their financial future. According to University of California psychology professor who led a study on goal setting, found that you're actually about 42% more likely to achieve your goal when you write them down in vivid detail. So if your goal is really important, right? If it's truly important, then it's worth writing down. Any goal that's important is worth writing down. Feel free to use our financial life plan summary page. It's out on our website that you can find as well. But it's a document that you can find that can kind of help guide you through looking at defining and discovering and tracking some financial goals. First, you want to, again, start with defining some specific goals, and also analyze more of your current situation and discover really what it might take to get there. So look at what your strengths are, right? Maybe you've been living below your means and you're not living paycheck to paycheck, or you're already maxing out your 401k contributions or your HSA accounts. Look at what weaknesses also might exist. Possibly not having a clear strategy for eliminating your debt. Maybe an investment portfolio that's way too conservative for the amount of time that you have to invest. Or if you're on the cusp of retirement, maybe you're taking too much risk if you're closing in on that retirement. Identify what opportunities that you also have available. Maybe you're not maxing out the potential of, say, a Roth or an HSA account. Or you have an old 401k plan that could be rolled over to an IRA for broader investment options that are a little bit more aligned with what your current goals are. Also identify some threats or curveballs that may come your way. Are the majority of your investments all locked up within your retirement plan and not accessible should you need those in the short term? How about inflation or rising healthcare costs? We need to be considering those as well. But again, identify some action steps that come out of that, and what you need, and also what help you might need to achieve these goals that you identified as well. And then set up a system to track the progress towards some realistic timeframes. And if you're unsure about really how to clarify those goals or identify action steps, remember, it's okay to ask for help. As you track your progress towards your finances, also, how do you know if you're winning, right? You keep score. And really to track your keep score, and the best way to do that is really to track your financial net worth by really making a list of all the assets, doing the balance sheet, all your assets minus your liabilities, and review them also periodically as well. Start off by reviewing those monthly, and then quarterly, and then at least once a year. There's lots of financial apps out there that can help make this a little more effortless as well. But even if you start off with just a piece of paper and a pencil is fine too. Just making a list of assets and liabilities and start tracking this, right? Studies show that people who are successful with planning and tracking their progress, on average, have about 2.5 times the total net worth than those without a plan. So again, if things are important, it's worth writing down and tracking them, and spending some time making sure we're making progress. And if we're not moving the needle, again, as you're keeping score, if you're not moving the needle in your financial life or doing as well as you'd like, it just means that there's something that you don't know yet, right? So again, search out more education, more information. For most Americans, what do you think the #1 wealth building tool is? So take just a minute to think about your answer here. A couple options, right? Could be a company retirement plan. And these are great, definitely great tools because they're automatic. It's out of sight and out of mind. It happens automatically. A Roth IRA, that's also a very great place to have investments grow tax-free. Most people are underutilizing this tax-free investing tool. Our income, it really doesn't seem like it's quite enough when you look at it just from an annual perspective. And of course, lottery tickets, right? Lottery tickets, they'll solve everything. Right? Actually, you have a better chance of getting struck by lightning than winning the lottery. So what is our #1 wealth building tool? For most Americans, when we compound it over our lifetime, our income is our #1 wealth building tool, okay? The key is to have a strategy and a plan on what to do with it. We offer a easy to use calculator that's on our website as well to project the amount of income in your remaining working career. And feel free to visit our website and run that calculation for yourself individually and just see how much potential income that you may have ahead of yourself. Here's an example that we run here as well. But as you can see, you'll likely have a potentially enormous amount of money that's going to pass through your hands in your working career. I mean, just look at somebody that's even 35 years old, right? That starts with a salary of $35,000 and gradually increases that 3% with just average salary increases. By the time they get to 65, they'll have $1.7 million run through their hands, right? It's a huge opportunity. It's also a huge responsibility. Because what we find is that money loves structure, okay? And without structure, money is fleeting. Just look at lottery winners, right? Who go broke within a few years of that big win. It's because they don't have structure. And just like the structural importance of the foundation and framework in building a home, we must have that structured framework in our financial lives to build a strong financial future. Because each of us will only be able to accumulate as much wealth as our structure allows us to. And creating income, one of the best ways to do that too is to create an income spending plan that really focuses on eliminating our debt and saving for tomorrow, but also in balancing enjoying today. Again, that creates structure. We just can't, just let money, run through our lives without any structure. It's just not going to work. let's take a serious look about what we're really buying with that income that we have running through our hands our lifetime. Are we buying assets or are we buying expenses? The majority of Americans typically all start out their first jobs, right? Poor, with more expenses than assets. However, those who are able to make a conscious effort through their working career to accumulate the assets while minimizing expenses can obtain that financial security. Our cars, if we think about it, they're a depreciating asset. We must insure it, we must maintain it, and we must pay taxes on it. However, in most cases, it's an expense that's needed to get to work for us to earn our incomes, right? Our house, it's an appreciating asset as well, but look at all the expenses that come along with it, right? And in addition to filling your house with stuff, you also need to insure it, you need to maintain it, and again, pay taxes on it. You always need a place to live though. So again, unless you are planning to significantly downsize in retirement, it's not really the best tool for building wealth, okay? Transportation and housing are often how people display their wealth though. It's not how they build it. These are typically the biggest expenses that really hinder our ability to save. And when it comes to saving, the vast majority of Americans accumulate their wealth in the form of stock and bond mutual funds within the retirement plans. When starting out, though, again, it's okay to choose one of those target date or lifetime funds. But as you're building your investments with those, it's also a great idea to start building your investment knowledge to gain a better understanding of what you're buying and what you're investing in. A general rule of thumb is to start with saving at least 10%. Then increase that percentage with every portion, with every pay raise, okay? And I don't know if anybody's familiar with the book, The Millionaire Next Door. I think it's a little older book, but it's been updated to the next Millionaire Next Door. But anyways, you can find it pretty easily. But basically what they found or what they studied here was more than 500 first-generation millionaires. Again, people that didn't have wealth, they're first-generation millionaires. They created it. They found the majority of these first-generation millionaires, they owned homes that cost well below what they could afford. It also found that these first-generation millionaires had more interest in building wealth than displaying their wealth, okay? So, and also if you want to be able to steer through the next financial crisis and hit those curveballs that life's inevitably going to throw our way, it's important to start building some margin into our lives, okay? We all know that living a paycheck to paycheck and borrowing excessively, it's a recipe for disaster. You just can't borrow yourself to prosperity. And really, housing and transportation, it's more than about 40 to 50% of our take home. You're probably spending more than you can afford, okay? With the exception of uncovered medical expenses, being broke's a choice because really, our homes and our cars, those are lifestyle choices, okay? We really must be intentional about, our money and truly ask, what's more important is displaying a high net worth to keep up with, again, the glamorous, perfect lifestyle that we see projected on social media, or is it actually accumulating that wealth? Because with our money, we're either going to tell our money where to go, or we're going to ask where it went, right? So one of the ways to be more intentional with this too is to utilize technology. It's a great way to, again, find some margin in our current finances. Is a great way to do this to track where our money's going. Once you have identified some possible areas of overspending, then you need a way to, again, to track that. UCLA actually did a study, and they found that tracking spending on a mobile app can reduce discretionary spending by about 15%. Because again, we're just more aware of it. It's just more in front of us. And if anybody caught the documentary called The Social Dilemma, you know that technology, or if we just think about it, we know technology, it's changing our behavior, isn't it? And so why not use that technology to our advantage? Because really personal finance, it's about 20% knowledge and about 80% of it is our behavior. It's what we're actually doing on a day-to-day basis. So again, technology can be a great tool to help us focus on what behaviors we want and need to change. Likely you guys have probably seen these figures before, but just look at the impact of saving, just even $5 a day with say even 5% interest, even over 10 years. I mean, a little bit over a long time can really make a huge impact in creating margin. And really, money's opportunity too. If we think about it, when we make a purchase, we don't often think about the opportunity that we're giving up. But when we buy, a cup of coffee, we rarely ever even think about what we're doing, if that's really the best use of our money. But think about what those purchases could mean to our financial future over a long time frame. I mean, such as possibly working a year longer or retiring, before retiring, or the ability to take maybe more vacations too. Again, these little things add up over a long time. Again, another great tool on our website. There's lots of great tools and calculators out there, but there's a calculator out there that allow you to look at the long-term financial impact of even just reducing carryout once per week, or making your coffee at home, or trading that energy drink that you're buying for some water, right? But anyways, you can easily calculate this and look at how much this adds up over a lifetime. Okay. And also, just for another, I guess, a little different perspective, if we really don't, buy things necessarily with money, we really buy it with hours from our life, right? If you think about it. So, and really the true price of anything, it's the amount of life that we're exchanging for it. So grab a calculator and just look at your take-home pay and, calculate that per hour and consider, again, what we're exchanging, for that as well. Understanding the true cost of credit. Okay, so let's take a quick look here as well, because it's often one of the biggest stressors in our life too is credit, and it also hides a true cost. If we knew how much it really costs when we bought it, would we have bought it in the first place, right? When we add up all the interest that we're paying. And really, Americans are trained, if you think about it too, we're trained to look at the monthly payment versus the actual cost. We're lulled into complacency by the payments. But all these payments really add up. Just look at the amount of debt that Americans are wrapping up. It's trillions of dollars in debt. And taking a look at the impact of just one of these, I guess, false narratives, if you will, of what the world's kind of telling us is that, a lot of people subscribe to the thought of, well, I'll just always have a car payment, right? And to be honest, before understanding the true power of compound interest, I had a similar view on that. But when you look at the average car payment today, it's about $500 a month. And you take that over 50 years, it'll be over $300,000 just in payments. At the end of 50 years, what do we really have to show for all those payments? Not much, right? And if you had taken that same $500 a month and invested it just at 6%, over 50 years, that'd be over $1.5 million, okay? So what type of impact could be made in your financial life if you could even just cut that expense in half, right? And just being aware of how this compound interest can work against us in life. Albert Einstein, he famously believed that compound interest would be the eighth wonder of the world, right? In that he who understands it earns it, and he who doesn't pays it. And we look at compound interest, again, it can either work for you or it can work against you. The average American consumer will have about $280,000 in interest working against them over their lifetime. But the problem with averages is that some people have little to no debt and some people have crippling amounts of debt. Okay, so take a minute, just to imagine what your life might look like if you had zero debt. Okay, how much stress could be eliminated from your life? Could you afford to travel more, or maybe even retire earlier? There's a great tool as well on the resource page. It's a debt elimination plan. You can easily click through here as well, and it basically starts with building a debt snowball, starting off with listing all your debts and starting off with paying off that lowest balance first, paying minimum on everything except the lowest balance, and then put all extra resources towards that lowest balance. Once you've paid that off, then you roll that payment along with everything else to the next lowest balance. And then basically what we're doing is creating a snowball, a debt snowball to pay off your debt, okay? This tool will also show you the potentially huge impact of having a focused plan towards debt elimination. Okay, often eliminating several years, limiting your debt often several years sooner. So again, and once the debt's eliminated, it can also help you project the impact of turning that debt into a snowball. Just think about if all the money we're spending on debt could be used towards, building our wealth, and what that might look like. Okay, so and again, paying off debt can be a great investment when you look at after obviously contributing at least enough to get the company match from any company retirement program. It's often it makes great sense then to plug the holes, so to speak, in your net worth bucket by investing and paying off high interest rate debt before making other investments. And also understanding the way that compound interest works, it's really essential to understand that component to building wealth. So again, he who understands compound interest earns it. Those who don't end up paying it. We can easily grasp the basic math around saving, say, 10% of our income each year and what that looks like over 30 years. That's a math we can do in our head. But the power of compound interest requires us to think more exponentially. It's just not math we can calculate in our head. It's like a snowball, though, rolling downhill. Its mass grows bigger and bigger with every revolution. Every year it grows bigger and bigger as it's compounding. So just consider the exponential impact of having our income grow a couple percent each year as we get raises or promotions. And if we save just 1% more each year, and really 1% more each year, it's 1 penny of every dollar that we make, right? If we think about it, that's not a lot. Can I save 1 more penny of every dollar? A lot of cases, yeah. And if we do that until we're saving about 20% of our income, all while compounding at a 7% annual growth rate over those same 30 years, that would equal nearly $1.3 million, right? So it can be difficult, though, to really understand what financial goals are even possible without understanding the exponential power of compound interest. Again, there's a calculator to use that's easy to use there as well. So when we look at funding our financial future, we also need to look at looking at a little bit more around finances and about investing. And really, investing is more about math and logic, okay? However, anything we were doing with our investing or around our money is often emotional, but we need to be looking a bit more, utilizing more math and logic. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the old sci-fi series of Star Trek, but we had Captain Kirk and Spock. They were a great team. Spock was a Vulcan. Vulcans, they didn't really have emotions, though. They saw the universe primarily with math and logic, okay? Captain Kirk was a human, very dramatic and had a lot of heart and emotion. And Spock often needed Captain Kirk to understand the human behavior that people had, to understand emotional situations. And Captain Kirk needed Spock to help him navigate situations with more math and logic. Again, Spock would have been a great investor because just thinking the world in math and logic. When we look at investing over a long period of time as well, naturally things are more conservative on the cash side of the world, but just aren't going to have the growth that we need. You can apply the rule of 72 to this as well, but taking 72 divided by the rate of return, it'll tell you how long it takes generally for your money to double. So, being invested for the long term in more equities will definitely help you meet your long-term goals. But also that's emotional because the markets go up and down. So to have some of the logic is that investing involves market volatility, though, naturally. Volatility refers to those ups and downs of the value of investment. So a good analogy here, though, is to, if you think about somebody riding an escalator while playing with a yo-yo, right? The yo-yo, the fact that the yo-yo goes up and down, like the stock market, it doesn't prevent it from eventually reaching the next level as we're going up the escalator. It's more about time in the market than timing the market, okay? So had you just missed the top 10 days in the last 20 years, you would have had less than a half of the return. So again, staying in for that long term. And then also when we look at taxes, we really want to pay attention to when we're paying taxes. Paying taxes when our rates are the lowest. So looking at if we're in a higher tax bracket now, then we probably benefit from a deduction by the traditional side of our retirement accounts. But if we've got, quite a few years of our working career ahead of us, and our income is likely to rise, we'd be better off in the Roth side of the world. Okay. So again, paying attention to utilizing some of these in our tax planning piece of the equation as well. Also, taking a look at HSA accounts, if those are available. The HSA is really the only account that offers a triple tax benefit, and it's definitely one that's absolutely underutilized. So when we're looking at the future of having options of tax deferral, we need to be looking at the Roth and the HSA accounts. As we're closing up on time here too, we'll keep moving, and as we wrap up, again, any questions, feel free to use it in the chat. But a lot of times when we think about planning for our financial future too, we can get pretty easily overwhelmed when we think about all the different account options that there are out there and different account types. I mean, when it comes to 401ks and 403bs, or 529 plans and traditional IRAs or Roth IRAs or HSAs, and the list goes on about, and again, it can be very overwhelming at sometimes. Where should we invest, right? Or where should we be putting our money to work at? And a lot of times when we're faced with too many options, people frequently just don't make decisions at all. We really just need to focus on the appropriate use of that next dollar, okay? So we first obviously must have an emergency fund started, because if we don't have at least a couple $1,000s set aside for an emergency, well, our plans can easily get off track if we don't have our emergency funds set up. Okay, so first starting there. But it's helpful, I guess, to think about a cascading waterfall of buckets, so to speak. So once you fill that first bucket, then move on to the next one. Okay? Some people might never make it past the fifth bucket, and that might be okay. The idea, though, is to have a plan. In this example, again, starting off with contributing always enough to get at least the match of any employer offered retirement plan, starting there first. And then make sure we have our insurance needs met. And that's going to be quite a bit different whether we're single or married or have children or not. Then next, focus on paying off any high interest rate debt as soon as possible. Okay, carrying high interest debt, again, it's like having large holes in your net worth bucket. If you have an HSA available and you're not using it, find someone to help you understand it better, because really that triple tax benefit of that account can play a huge part in securing your financial future. Your income will determine where you go next. But again, looking at, do we contribute to a Roth first? A lot of times we want to, again, do our 401k, get our company match, do our HSA, and then also contribute to a Roth before going back to our 401k. That gives us more diversification from a tax perspective. Also gives us more flexibility should we, again, have a financial curveball thrown our way and we need access to some additional funds. Well, if it's in our 401k, it's a lot less liquid and a lot less accessible from a tax perspective. Okay, so again, looking at having a plan for all of this. Again, proper planning too, it's an ongoing process. It's focused around some important pillars that, again, become, I guess the relevance and importance change throughout our financial lives as well. But really, we all enter this world with the same amount of money that we're able to take with us when we leave it. And the purpose really of money isn't throughout our lives, it's not to create stress or worry. With a plan, money can be used to bring happiness for you and those that you care about. The difference, though, is over a lifetime, we'll either let our money control us or we'll put a plan in place to have more control over our money. So financial planning, really simplified, is saving more, spending less, and not doing anything stupid, really, to simplify things. But really, throughout our lifetime, we'll also have lots of different goals and decisions that we'll need to make, right? Early on in our financial lives, we often do nothing when it comes to our money. It's mainly because we don't have any money, right? But at some point in our lives, most people realize the importance of gaining a better understanding of their money. So we start to do it ourselves, which is great. And then when the information that we're reading or taking in exceeds our knowledge, that's when we really should be asking for help, from an advisor or a coach, to gain more clarity and confidence, in our financial lives. Because your financial future really isn't something that you should be guessing at. And it's never too late to plan. However, again, planning often makes the most impact the earlier that we do it, right? And every one of us has our own unique, really goals and passions and gifts. As financial planners, we're really wired for planning and for goal setting and achieving goals. And we help people, and we really help, really love also helping people do this as well. Sometimes with financial planning or finances, some people are really drawn to that, and other times it makes people nauseous. So again, if it's a strength or an interest, definitely dig into it. If it's something that makes you nauseous, reach out for help. Okay, because our financial lives, they're really like a puzzle. Okay, and if you've ever tried to do a puzzle without the ability to see the picture of the box, right, it can be very difficult. And so planning also it's a process of putting together, really, so to speak, your financial puzzle as your life unfolds. Okay, well, hopefully you found some value in today's quick program and short program. So now it's really time to take your finances and put some things into action. Okay, so prioritize some time, right? Be intentional with planning. Set aside time to spend time working on your finances, and really define your goals and utilize a lot of the tools and resources that are very accessible anymore to really help you kind of point you in the right direction. And again, ask for help. Okay, I know Johanna will send out a link with access to the recording for today. There can also be a link out on our website as well at Legacy Financial Group for all the resources page. And again, it's okay to ask for help. So while this stuff's important, there's so much more. However, really it's unrealistic to, if you think about it, tackle everything in your finances all at once, right? You really want to start with, what's the biggest financial concern you have? Really, what's keeping you up at night? That's where you want to start at to alleviate some of that stress and start bringing clarity and confidence around those points in your financial life. And again, happy to be a resource for anybody on the webinar today. I know Johanna's got some additional information available for some other research she'll cover here in just a second as well. Here's my contact info. Should you have any questions in the future, happy to be a resource. Johanna, I'll go ahead and let you take over here, and then we can answer some questions if there are any.
Great, thank you, Scott. Such good information. So I just wanted to briefly recap our EAP benefits that if you're listening, it's possible, probably highly likely that you have our EAP through EFR. So just as a reminder, we're here 24/7 to help you with life's challenges. We can, speak with you about relationship issues, family issues, grief, loss, anxiety. So if you're just feeling kind of unsettled or feeling not yourself lately, please consider calling EFR. We are a completely confidential resource. We cannot relay any personal information back to your employer. So all you need to do is make that phone call, which is sometimes the hardest step in the process, is that first reach out. So we're here to help you manage life's challenges with a variety of things. We also have a podcast, and if you like kind of what Scott said today, we do have a podcast called Emotion Well, and our episode from just a few months back features Scott and talking a lot about what he shared today. And again, that's just another great resource. If you do have questions about today's topic or a question for Scott, I'll hang out here and moderate a Q&A. Otherwise, this presentation it has been recorded, and we will be putting it on our website. So you can share it, you can go back and maybe catch some sound bites that you really connected with and listen to them again, but this will be on efr.org. At the top of the website, there's a menu called Resources and an option called Webinars, and that's where you would find this webinar and all past webinar recordings. So we'll just give people a couple of minutes to type in any questions or comments they have. We have someone asking, is it better to pay off medical bills or credit card debt first?
Right, yeah, good question. And starting with, I guess, that debt elimination snowball, so to speak, too, depending on what the balance is on that. Again, if we've got multiple debts, and that will kind of help clarify a little of that, but really starting with knocking out lowest balances. Also, the other factor we want to consider, too, is the interest rates. A lot of times the medical debt, it seems like, can often be 0%. So it's not costing you necessarily anything to be carrying that debt, whereas credit cards can be a lot higher in their interest rates as well. So generally, I'd probably lean towards credit card debt, but it depends on what type of that medical debt is. Sometimes the hospitals and physician clinics have a credit type of card that they will issue you, but if it's not, if it's 0%, I'd probably lean towards the interest rate first.
Thanks, Scott. Someone would like to know what HSA stands for.
Yeah, great question. It's a health savings account. A lot of times, not every employer, but a lot of employers offer a high deductible health insurance plan. And along with that high deductible health insurance plan comes an HSA account, or a health savings account. And so we've got a higher deductible, but we're able to save, but also in those high deductible health insurance premiums typically are a lot less than the low deductible plan. So when we have less premium, we're able to save the difference between the higher premium and the lower premium, and save that difference into a savings account, a health savings account, which is tax deferred, any contributions that go in. That health savings account can be invested as well, and those savings or those investments will grow tax free. And then we can take, as long as we take those health savings account dollars out for a qualified medical expense, then the distribution is tax free as well. So again, there's a triple tax benefit there. So again, a great tool to be saving for our current healthcare needs, but also that that savings account, if we don't use, unlike a flex spending account, which people may be familiar with, flex spending, you have to use it in that calendar year. The health savings account, you don't have to use it in that current year. So any dollars that you build up there can be rolled over every single year. It's kind of like, in a way, an IRA, so to speak, for your healthcare, your future healthcare. So again, it's a great tool to be looking into if you have that available for your with your employer, or if you even just ask around to see if you're not sure, ask your employer if you have one, and if they don't, ask them when they will be getting one because they're a great tool.
Thank you. Another question. If it comes to debt and college savings, what do you do first, second, or combined? If it comes to debt and college savings, what do you do first?
Yeah, good question. So if it's paying off our debt versus saving for our kids' education, I'm assuming that's the question. It's yeah, I mean, it's taking care of ourselves. We've got to take care of ourselves first. I kind of think about, you know, like the when you're flying on a plane, right? I mean, if there's low oxygen, the things drop from the ceiling, you want to put it on first. You got to take care of yourself first before you take care of the person next to you. And that's the same with our own financial lives. Let's get our own financial lives in order, take care of our debt, start saving for our own retirement, because you can't finance your retirement. You can finance your kids' education. Okay, so I would absolutely take care of our own financial situation first. And that should be, and if saving for your kids' future is important to you, use that motivation and that importance to get your own financial house in order first, so you can then take care of saving for your kids' future needs for education as well.
All right, and we have several people saying thank you for all of the great information, Scott. So I echo that. Just kind of an FYI, our upcoming webinars, we have one on Tuesday, August 10th at 2 p.m. It's called What's for Lunch? Make fun, fast, and healthy meals as easy as 1, 2, 3 with EFR's registered dietitian Susie Roberts. And then we have one the end of August, on August 26th, called Welcome Back, kind of, the age of starting over. So we thought, kind of with a lot of people shifting back into that back to school mode, and a lot of people returning to a more traditional workplace, at least for the time being, we thought we would throw in a couple of things that would fit nicely with those two goings on. So again, thank you, Scott Nelson from Legacy Financial Group, and please consider reaching out to EFR if you're just kind of feeling stuck or struggling in life. We say life happens, we're here to help, and call us anytime, completely confidential. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.